Welcome, and I'm going to get right started into this. I hate those videos where you're waiting and waiting and waiting for the punchline. So I'm going to get started right away. Um, my grandmother was probably the best bread maker that I have ever known, and to this day, unfortunately, not even my mom or my aunt can make the bread the way that my Grandma Sue could. She just had a gift. And if you are a part of my family and you had the opportunity to eat Grandma Sue's bread, you know what I'm talking about. She made it almost every single day. So I guess, if you're doing something every single day, day in and day out, you get pretty good at it. I remember being in the kitchen with her, and there always came the time when she would say, okay, we have to just set this aside for a while and let it rise. You see, if we were to put it immediately in the oven, it wouldn't be as airy and tasty, and it might even have that yeast taste. I know there's probably some of you out there who know what I'm talking about, who maybe weren't quite patient enough to wait for the bread to rise, and so you know about that yeast taste. Setting it aside simply made it better. Setting it apart for a while simply had to happen to get the result that she wanted. So in recipes, it means to put a particular ingredient aside for a specific use. At the dinner table, it may mean to be a comfortable distance. Set yourself apart, be a comfortable distance from the person next to you. In sports, it could be, setting yourself apart demonstrates that you are exemplary in your sport. In some other instances, it may mean isolate or sequester. Sometimes we set ourselves apart without really meaning to. I do this often at work. My team will be discussing a particular song or movie, and I am completely lost. I have no idea what they're talking about. Sort of like the mom who texts her son and says, hey, what does IDK, LY, and TTYL mean? And the son texts back, I don't know, love you, and talk to you later. So mom just texts back and says, that's okay, honey. I'll ask your sister when I see her. Thanks. Love you too. Yet for most of us, we really don't want to be set apart from other people. We want to be included from the start. We don't want to be isolated. We don't want to have any extra attention drawn to us because it's uncomfortable. It's much easier to be, a part of the crowd. So we adjust our morals, maybe just a little, and we adjust our words just a little, and we adjust maybe the way we dress, but never too much, just enough, right? We compromise our values, but just a little bit. Everyone lies a little bit, right? Everyone swears a little bit, right? Taking home pens or other supplies from work isn't really stealing, is it? Well, that kind of tastes a little bit like yeast to me. It's no wonder that we struggle with anxiety and stress. We face so many challenges, so many choices every single day, and so many opinions are flying around. Your boss says do it one way, your colleague says do it another. You get a great idea, you share it with somebody, and they just shoot it down. And let's just not even get started on politics, Everyone has their own agenda, and quite simply, when your head, your heart, and your actions are not in sync, you're going to be in a state of conflict. It's just the way it is. In fact, whenever there is a contradiction or inconsistency in your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions, you're going to feel out of whack. You're going to feel stressed. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be emotionally exhausted. You're going to be full of anxiety. It's just simply that way. God tells us to cast our cares upon Him. And how do we do that? You say you trust God, right? You say, yeah, Lord, I trust you. I know that you've got me. But then we worry about our finances. You say all things work together for the good of all concerned or all involved, and you still try to control the outcomes. After all, how do you actually look at your bank account and not feel a little stressed when you have a bill coming up and there doesn't seem to be enough in there? I mean, what are you going to do? How can you honestly not try to control the negative comments at work? How can you not get upset by that person that cuts you off on the highway? Or, oh, wait a minute, the lady at the grocery store who needs to go back and just get one more thing 3 times. Or when your child spills milk for the 3rd time this morning and it's only 7 o'clock and it's all over the bed and now you have to change the sheets, and you know what I'm talking about. I think you kind of get my point. The bottom line is you have to train your brain to believe the values that you speak and then start putting those thoughts into action. Okay, so I promised you some practical ways to set yourself apart and find the calm in the center of the storm, right? So I hope you have a pen and paper handy, because you're going to need that. So I'll just wait 1 second so you go grab that or what have you, okay? Or maybe you want to write it down afterwards and watch this again. I'm not sure. But anyway, so the first one is go and drink a gallon of water in less than 45 minutes. I promise you, you will spend all your time in the bathroom. You will not have any time to think about any stress because you will be caught up in doing that. Just kidding. That's really not the first one. But anyway, thought I'd throw that in there because it's funny. But drink water. It's good for you. Your head, your heart, and your actions all have to speak together. You have to pay attention to what you're thinking. You have to pay attention to how you're feeling and the actions that you're taking. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." So what does that mean? It means, don't get caught up in the world stuff. Don't get caught up in all that stuff that's going on out there and what this one's saying and that one's saying, the other one's saying, because that really isn't going to help you. It's just going to keep you more stressed, more conflicted. What you want to do is you want to renew your mind. You want to think about the thoughts that you're having. You want to test them out to make sure that they are the will of God. And then when they're the will of God, you're going to see that everything is just like boom, boom, boom. Everything's working together. It's all in sync. So let's just start with your head. Everybody thinks a little bit differently, but I think that ultimately we can all agree that there is either a productive thought or a destructive thought, right? Okay, so we have a productive or destructive thought. You can really just ask yourself some questions. The first one being, is this serving me? Is this helping me? Is this really a thought or an idea that I want to have happen? Do I feel more or less confident? Do I feel more or less powerful? Do I feel at peace or is there some unrest? Does this thought make me happy? Am I more motivated or am I feeling like I want to just go back to bed? So those are some questions that you can ask yourself to see if your thinking is in the right place. Then you have to look at your values and your beliefs. And a value and a belief would be something like honesty, patience, courtesy, a commitment, loyalty, punctuality, respect, those kinds of things, dedication. So here's an example. So let's say that you believe that honesty is really the most important thing in everything that you do. You need to be honest. You need to be forthright. You need to be, always telling the truth because that's important to you and that's a value that you have. But then you tell your manager that you're sick when you're really not, or that you're stuck in traffic when you really overslept. And then there's the time maybe that you sort of told your husband or your spouse that those new shoes that were in the back of the closet, they've been there a really long time. Yeah, right. They haven't been there a very long time at all. You just bought them, you know what I mean? But you didn't really want them to know. Listen, Some people say that the negative consequences that happen after that is karma. I'm just telling you, it's not karma. It's your inner conflict that is creating that imbalance in your spirit, and that creates a negative result afterwards. So you really have to pay attention to make sure everything is all in sync. And besides, that's what God wants for you anyway. So when you set yourself apart and you follow a process, you have to follow a process of ensuring that your thoughts match up with your beliefs and your actions and your words. Your words are important too. A challenge comes in when our beliefs and our values, what we believe, it conflicts with our intellectual belief. So an example would be, you really believe that God will supply all of your needs. You know this. You are 100% confident God will supply all my needs. Everything is taken care of. I don't have to worry about anything. God's got me, okay? And then you look in your bank account and you recognize that your bank account is almost empty and you've got some bills to pay. And now you have a conflict. This is intellectually, you're looking at it and saying, not going to happen. Your belief is saying, God's got me, but there's a conflict. And when there's that conflict, you are going to end up being stressed. The anxiety is going to happen. So you can apply this to every single area of your life. This is not a quick fix. Absolutely not a quick fix. This is something that you have to be committed to on a daily basis. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. I'm going to go into a little bit more depth of law of attraction and positive affirmations in another training, but I want to touch on this really quickly because God's revealed to me some truths about this over the years, and I really want to share this with you. Number one, everything has to be in line with God's will for your life. So you cannot assume that if you focus on it individually long enough, hard enough, that you are going to get what you want. It doesn't work that way. You do not have the power by yourself to create a result. God has to work through you, and it has to be His will, and it has to be Him working through you that creates that result. So you just have to trust His plans are way better than your plans. You might be asking for $1 million on a scratch off, and He's saying, girl, I was going to give you 10 million. What are you looking at? What are you doing? So, you've got to let that go. You've got to say, okay, Lord, if it's in your will, then we'll move forward. A vision board can also be a way of focusing on the things that God wants for you, and keep your head, your heart, and your actions in line. So a vision board, I'm using that a little bit differently than I have in the past. And I really think that a positive affirmation, instead of calling it a positive affirmation, I really believe that it should be speaking God's promises over your life. So again, those are just some a little bit of a tidbit of what is to come in the future here. But let me give you 5 things that I think are really going to help you. And they're kind of like scattered things, but let me just give you 5 practical things that I think are going to make a difference for you and help you to set yourself apart and be that person that you really want to be, and overcome some of the challenges that you have in your life and see some amazing results in your life and your business. The first one is pray. You have to ask God for wisdom in your thoughts and your actions on a daily basis. That has to be like the number one thing that you have to do. It's like going in and getting that fresh bread from grandma. You've got to get your bread in the morning. You've got to get that hey, Lord. And praying is not, you don't have to do this and put your head down and be all like, kneeling and everything. Praying is just saying, hey, I'm going to have a conversation with you, Lord. Okay, you ready to listen? Okay, so it's just a conversation, and it's just saying, hey, I need some help today. I need you to direct me. I need you to guide me. I want these things, but if they're in your will. I know you're fighting my battles for me. I know you're taking care of everything for me. Help me to really just have a great day and be confident that you've got me. You've got everything under control. So you ask for that in the beginning. The second thing is to plan, okay? This is where you have to kind of be, not conform to this world, okay? Plan. And what do I mean by that? Well, you already know what your life is like on a regular basis. So try to think ahead. What kinds of things, knowing how I feel today, what kinds of things might interfere with my mental state of being? And come up with a solution before you even get started. So, if somebody talks harshly to you at work, or somebody cuts you off on the highway, or your kid does spill the milk, or whatever it might be that might just throw you off, think about how you're going to respond to that situation before you even get going in the day, so that you can have a plan. Hey, I said I was going to count to 10. Hey, I said I was going to pray. Hey, I said I was going to walk out and walk away from this and, or ignore it. Hey, I was going to pray for my, for that person that said something nasty to me. Whatever it is, but come up with a plan, okay? It's like putting on your armor of God, You got to get ready for the day, and you got to be planned. You got to take care of that. The next couple of them are a little bit different, but I'm going to tell you, be on time. Actually, be early to everything that you do. Everything that you do, whether it's an appointment, it's a getting to work, whatever it is, be early. Be early. Leaders are punctual. Leaders are on time, and if you're going to set yourself apart from the crowd, and you're going to be unique and you're going to be different, you need to be punctual. Besides, it is so much better to get recognized in a positive way than in a negative way, okay? Number 4, pay attention during the day to how you're speaking out loud. Be careful that you're not speaking into existence the things that you don't want. Think about this. So you might be having a bad day. If I'm having a bad day, nobody really knows it, because they'll say, "Hey, how you doing today, Carol?" And if Carol Ann or somebody else is watching this right now, she's going to say, "I'm getting better by the minute," because I do. I say, "I'm getting better by the minute." If I'm really having a bad day, I might say something like, "I'm doing pretty good, but I'm working on great." So you have to set yourself apart. You have to be different than the crowd. Don't fall into the day-to-day dippies, Number 5, do not expect perfection. This is going to be really important for a lot of you, and I really want to make this clear. You cannot get rid of the doubts, the insecurities, the fears, the issues, the stress. You cannot get rid of all of that, ever. It's not going away. It's not going to go away ever. I'm sorry. But what will happen is, if you continually work on this and you continually pay attention to what you're thinking and where you're going and what you're doing and moving in that direction, if you continually pay attention to this and you continually pay attention to the words that are coming out of your mouth, that little voice is going to get smaller and smaller. It's going to just be whispering. You're not going to hear it as much, and you're going to be able to overcome a lot. So that is something that I really, really want to encourage you on. So these are the things. So pray, plan your day, be on time, watch your thoughts and your speaking and your attitude. Do not expect perfection from yourself. Do not expect that these things are going to happen overnight. This is a process. This is something you have to work on daily. May you be inspired. May you be purpose-driven. And may you set yourself apart long enough so you don't taste the yeast. Have a great day. And thank you so much for spending some time with me.